everyone, welcome back to my, oh no, yeah, no, this is fine. This is like the 4th time I've attempted to film this video. Either people keep turning up at my house, I say the wrong thing, I've not got the camera on the right settings. Let's give this another go. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. First of all, thank you for actually watching my last video, the first upload that I had done in pretty much a year. In my last video, I asked you if it would be helpful for me to do a bit of a Q&A specifically on the London Marathon, which I ran 2 weeks ago, and just generally getting into running as a non-runner. I started running 12 months ago now, so a year ago after getting into the London Marathon. So I'll cover the story of how and why I even got into this at all, and then I also asked on Instagram if people wanted me to do a Q&A, and the answer was a resounding yes, minus maybe like 5 people. So, and no, it wasn't from a response field of 6. So most of you said yes, so I figured that is what I would do. So I asked you for your questions on Instagram. I have got them all here in my phone, and I will go through them and answer them. So like I say, I started running now a year ago. I have never ever been a sporty person. Like, sport has never been my forte. At school, I was terrible at it, was just not on the radar at all there. I was not a runner, I was not on the netball team, I was nothing. I was drama, 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 and I don't mean causing it, although I did a lot of that too. I was into my drama and used to do a drama class instead, never bothered with sports. Think I did gymnastics when I was like a toddler, but yeah, just not for me. I remember going to school and having to do cross country, and my poor old chavvy teenage battered smoking lungs were just not game for that, and literally couldn't run for 2 minutes. The only thing I did was bike to school and back every single day. So that's about the only sport that I ever did. I started running in lockdown, didn't everybody, as just a means to like get out. I was trying to lose weight for IVF, so running seemed like a free, easy, accessible thing to do. I got up to 10k in about 6 weeks, and then once I'd reached that 10k, I literally never ran again. So it's, you know, not something that is in my nature to do. Then I saw a friend of a friend do the London Marathon last year. I was watching it on the telly. I was feeling very inspired. I was going through a bit of a phase of feeling like I needed to find something for me. Oh, just kicked my camera. That's always a good start. Oh dear. Was kind of going through a bit of a phase where I felt like I needed to find something for me outside of motherhood. I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to feel good about myself. I'd been watching the London Marathon, known a few people that were doing it, and applied through the ballot. After too much wine, I should clarify that. I was sat at home, I drank a bottle of wine with Marco, and I decided it was a good idea to enter. And then that continued, and rather than just entering through the ballot, I also decided to enter through a charity. So I lost my granddad in November 2023. He had Alzheimer's. He had very, very advanced Alzheimer's. By the end of his life, he wasn't able to look after himself at all. He was not there. We're, you know, pretty sure he was blind, deaf, like his entire body had shut down, and had been shut down for a significant amount of time. My granddad was diagnosed when I was 18, and he died when I was 29. So we had an 11-year long battle with Alzheimer's. For the first 5 years or so, it was slow, and then after that, it just kind of catapulted, and then he spent another maybe 5 years very, very, very poorly indeed. So this was 5 months after he had died, and I decided that I was going to apply through Alzheimer's Society, and not just, you know, in memory of him, like that was the main reason, it was in memory of him, but also for my grandma, who kept him at home and looked after him and literally devoted her entire life to looking after him. Because I think with Alzheimer's, it is the people that aren't living with it and the people that are watching the deterioration of their loved one that suffer the most, I think, because ultimately the person with it eventually doesn't know that this is happening to them. So it was really important to me that I did that, and it was a really important cause for me. So anyway, I applied, and at the end of May last year, they rang me and said, we'd really love for you to be on the team. And I burst into tears, and then I started laughing, and then I cried, and then I laughed, and then I cried, and they were like, you know, you can think about it, you don't need to say yes right now, but if you still want to do it, we would love to have you on the team. And I said, well, I'd love to do it. And that was it. It was an instant decision. I could have said no, but I didn't. I was determined that I was going to do this, and maybe 3 days later I started training. So I was training for the London Marathon for 11 months. To begin with, I literally could not run for 2 minutes without being out of breath. I remember doing my first like 5 weeks of training and being like, how on earth am I ever going to do this? So I'll talk you through the whole process, like I'll answer all your questions, but yeah, I hope that if you are thinking of starting running that this is useful and that you know, take some of my advice, maybe don't, whatever. But I hope that this is useful and I hope that you enjoy it. So let's get straight into the questions. Question number 1, will you do another? No, absolutely not. No, I really won't do another. I really enjoyed training up until I got to the half marathon point. So I did the Great Eastern Run, which is a half marathon in Peterborough, where I live. I did that in October as part of my training, and then I switched from the half marathon training to the marathon training after I did that. And I really did enjoy it up to that point. There were a few runs, like, don't get me wrong, when you get into kind of like the 18 kilometers, you're getting above the 10 miles, it gets a bit tedious doing the longer ones, but because a half marathon is 21 point something kilometers, you don't really have to do many of those before you go on to do the half marathon. Obviously, when you're doing the marathon training, it gets to a point where most of your runs are much longer than a half, and you are running for, in my case, in excess of 2.5 hours every weekend, and that becomes very lonely. It's not very nice. For me, no, a half marathon is absolutely my limit. I have applied to do the Great Eastern Run again in October. I will be doing that with Annabelle, who I host my podcast with. We will be running that together, and yeah, I'm really excited to do that. And I feel like entering these events will keep me running. It's really important to me that I keep running because I really do enjoy it when I'm out. I have to say that. The actual mental build-up and getting myself out the door is often very, very, very hard. Sometimes it literally takes everything I have to get out of that door. And so having these events that I have paid to do kind of helps me with that motivation. Bruce, please stop licking your bum. Every time I record, you start licking your bum. Please stop. I love you. Bruce is my dog, not my husband. Anyway, so yeah, the answer in that is just no. I think the only way that I would do a full marathon again is if I continue doing half marathons and I continue doing it for, you know, the next couple of years or whatever, and then I think, oh, actually, yeah, I really fancy doing that again. But while I have got Joey, as young as he is, and if we have another child, I don't think I would ever do it while I have toddlers again. Like, it was a lot. I do quite like, however, the thought of doing one with Joey when he's older. Like, he loved the fact I did the marathon. He's 2.5, and he came and watched me on the Sunday, and then on the Tuesday Marco took him to nursery because Joey's room is at the top of the stairs and I could not walk upstairs. So Marco took Joey to nursery, and then when he went to pick him up, the ladies at nursery were like, oh, did mum do the marathon at the weekend? He said, and Joey had been in nursery going, mummy ran marathon in London, mummy ran marathon, mummy ran marathon. And he'd be running on the spot, and he was doing this at home, and he'd be there like running on the spot going, run marathon like mummy. And it was just like, I loved it. And then when we've been talking about it, he goes, can I run marathon? And I'm like, you can run a marathon when you're older if you'd like to. I want to run a marathon. So in my head, I'm like, okay, cool. As soon as he's like old enough to come for a run with me, I'll do that. And maybe one day we can run a marathon together, although I'm sure he'd do it a lot quicker than I did. So yeah, in short, the answer is no. I'm too embarrassed to start running in public, as I know I'll be so slow. Any tips? This is a big kind of thing that, as like, I think I said in my last vlog, it's caused me to go viral on social media, and it's been quite scary because some people have really strong opinions on this, which is just wild. But I am a slow runner. So I found out recently, actually, that the average pace for a runner who is female is around 7 to 7:30 kilometers. It's around 6.5 to 7.5. Either way, around the 7.5 minute per kilometer pace. That is what I run at. I run on average at around 7 minutes 30 seconds per kilometre, which a lot of people deem to be slow. I ran the marathon at an average pace of between 8:30 and 9 minutes per kilometre. I am, by my own definition, if you like, a slow runner. it does, I think, take some work, or it certainly took some work for me to kind of block out that noise around that, because I love things like Strava. I am a sucker for reward. If after everything I did, people went, yay, well done. If I put my clothes in the wash and my husband was to go, yay, well done, every time I did it, I would be the tiniest person in the world and I would never have a floor robe. Let me tell you that for free. So things like Strava, where people give you little kudos on their runs and things like that, I love. And I would start comparing myself, and I would see people that were doing their like sub 30-minute 5Ks and this, that and the other, and I'd be like, oh, I'm not that good, like I'm not a proper runner. If you're outside and you're running, you're a runner. That is the way that my brain is trying to work now. Like I still feel like I'm not a runner, and I ran a marathon. So I really think comparison is the thief of joy. Running shouldn't be about how fast you go. If you want that to be a goal, then by all means let it be a goal, but otherwise just get out there and do it. Like, I don't think I have ever, maybe it's because I'm slow, but I have never run past somebody and thought they're running slow, like ever. I genuinely don't care how fast people go. And so to me, I just go out. I used to be really conscious of A, what I looked like, B, what my backside looked like while I was running, and my speed and my distance. Now, I honestly don't care. Like I really, really, really do not care. And I think for me, I will just put my headphones on and off I go. I'm out there for me and nobody else. I think once you've done it a few times, you do kind of get past it. And for me, like I say, speed wasn't important for me, it was about the distance. And so my honest word of advice there is to just exist, just go and just keep pushing yourself, and you will get past it, and eventually you won't care. And if you are really worried about it, either A, set yourself a goal to make yourself, like help yourself get faster, or just focus on getting out there. Like it's just not, it's not worth thinking about. So just remember that comparison is the thief of joy. I'm going to do these the other way around because one kind of leads on to the other. So the questions here were foods to eat before and during. Did you use gels, and if so, which one? And then the question after that is, how do you find the right balance of carb loading and taking gels? So I'm going to answer this like all at once. Carb loading is effectively, for anybody who doesn't know, like when you are racing, when you are doing long distances, the recommendations sometimes is that you carb load leading up to it. So that means in the days leading up to your marathon that you were eating more carbs to basically fuel your body so that you have got more in you to be able to push through. I would always, I do my long runs on a Sunday, so I will always the night before have quite a carb heavy meal. So that would be like pizza. To be honest, I never really ate that much different because I ate quite a lot of carbs anyway. But I would, for example, like Saturday night, mine and Marco's like takeaway night, so we will usually have either a Chinese, an Indian, or a pizza, and they are typically quite carb heavy meals. So I would eat quite heavy the night before. The morning of, my like go-to my go-to run breakfast, which I will try and have like 2 hours before I run, is either one of the Warburton's thin protein bagels with peanut butter and banana, or egg on it, that same bagel, or egg on toast or something like that. If I'm running in the evening, then same again, but I'll have like a tuna sandwich or something for lunch and just try and build there. But when I'm doing events, so obviously I did it with the Great Eastern and with the London Marathon, I will extend that. So it will be like eating things like fish and pasta and sweet potatoes or normal potatoes, like things like that in the week leading up. I think before the marathon so I started properly carb loading. I started eating, like making sure I was eating 3 meals a day consistently, because I don't usually eat breakfast. I'm pretty bad at eating breakfast, but I was eating 3 meals a day from like the week before, and it would be like egg on toast for breakfast, a sandwich or something like that for lunch, and then dinner I would just make sure was like full of different things. So some nights I'd have like a bowl of pasta, another night I'd have sausage and mash or toad in the hole or whatever. But actually leading up to the marathon, I can't remember what I ate on Friday, but on the actual Saturday, so I had my egg on toast breakfast, and then for a snack I had I quite like the Grenade protein bars, so I had one of those. Lunch I had a chicken Caesar salad wrap, a packet of crisps, a banana, and then in the afternoon I had like a flapjack snack and some nuts, and then in the evening we were in London, so I went out for dinner and I had an arancini starter, which is obviously like rice, and then I had a bowl of pasta for dinner. And then my breakfast on the actual day, we got breakfast in the hotel, and I had what did I have? I had 2 slices of toast, I had a sausage, 2 hash browns, a banana, and something else. Oh, and then I bought like a peanut butter porridge thing, so I had that as well. And then about an hour before I actually started the race, I had like a one of those protein nut bar things. Trek, is it? And then while I was actually running, I had another flapjack type thing, and then I was on Jelly Babies and Skittles. So I try and, like I say, eat as much as I can, like carb-wise, spaced out the days leading up to a long run. I don't bother doing anything like that really unless I'm running like over kind of 12-13k. I feel like for a 10k, as long as I've eaten a good breakfast and, you know, I've eaten well, it's fine. Gel wise, I didn't actually use gels, and I don't use gels. I tried gels. I've tried 3 different types. I've used the SIS ones, the MyProtein ones, and there was another one that my mum gave me, and I can't remember what they were, but she gave me them. The SIS ones I didn't really like. The ones that my mum gave me, I didn't really like. The MyProtein ones, so I got it in orange. They were the thing I don't like about gels is some of them are really easy to open, but some of them are really hard, and you've got to like do it with your teeth while you're running. And then you've got to take them with water, what have you. I just didn't really like them, and I think a lot of the time the taste just isn't there. The MyProtein ones, the orange ones, were okay taste-wise, but I just didn't really like them. I don't really like the texture of it. I just didn't want them. Also, if you are going to use them, you need to use them and start practicing with them on your shorter runs, because some of them can give you have to find ones that work for you, because some of them do give you bad stomachs, and the last thing you want to be is caught short on a long run if it's the first time you've ever tried them. So I just never really used them. When I did the Great Eastern, it was Jelly Babies for me, and I just kind of maintained that throughout, that as long as I'd eaten enough, I would take like sweets while I was out. So for me, my go-to snacks while I was running ended up being either, like I say, the flapjack type things, whether it was a Graze one or the Trek ones or whatever, like some kind of protein bar thing. But for me, it was always Jelly Babies, giant Skittles. The little ones, they work just as well, but for me, I was too worried that I was going to choke on them. So giant Skittles and Nerds, you know, the little sweets. So I got like boxes of them to take with me on the marathon and things like that. And for me, it's the sugar hit that just keeps me going, and they have got quite a lot of carbs in, so they work fine. So for me, I choose sweets over gels. Do you start with a warm-up before running? I'm not very good at warming up or cooling down. I am terrible at doing my stretches afterwards. Something that I really need to get better at, but something I've never been very good at. In terms of a warm-up, if I'm in a rush and I want to literally go from the second that I leave my door, then I will just jog on the spot for a few minutes in the house before I go. But typically when I leave the house, I will walk for 3 to 5 minutes before I start running. There tends to be like a point where I leave my house and then I have like a starting point. Any advice or must-haves for marathon training? I would say get yourself a running vest. And I know that I will say one thing, that I think people follow runners on social media and they see them with these big fancy vests that cost a fortune, they're expensive running glasses, they have all the gels, they have these really fancy trainers. You don't need all of that. And I actually saw a really great reel the other week where somebody was like, oh, I can't start running because I can't afford these trainers and I can't afford this vest and this, that and the other. And they're like, says who? Everyone on Instagram that runs say you need these things. And she was like, yeah, everyone on Instagram. But in real life, people don't have all these fancy things. For marathon training, I do think a vest or some kind of running bag is worth it. So I got a vest from MyProtein. It was out of stock last time I looked, but if it is in stock, I will link it in the description box. But mine had 2 pockets. It came with 2 water bottles that are like flexible water bottles. So rather than like big proper ones, and you put them both in the jacket, and then there's 2 other deep pockets, so I would be able to have my phone in them, although my leggings have a phone pocket as well, so my phone can go in there. But I would be able to keep my keys in there. I don't like running with my keys in my hand. A lot of the time I will drive to like villages and somewhere where it's a bit more scenic to run. So I always have my car keys on me, which are big and bulky. So it has a pocket for that, a pocket for my phone, a pocket for whatever. And then it also has a big pocket on the back for a 2-litre bladder. But if you are marathon training, you need to take your snacks with you and things like that. So something with loads of pockets is really useful. So I would say if you're marathon training, A, get yourself some brilliant running trainers. And B, get yourself a vest of some kind so that you can take plenty of water, snacks, etc. with you. Also, as a woman, and I hate that I have to do this, share your location with someone. Marco has my location all the time anyway, not because he's a stalker, I have his too, it's just something that we do. But my location is shared with Marco and it's also shared with my friends. So when I'm out for a run, somebody always knows I'm out and they know my ETA, and if I've not checked in or anything like that, they will check in with me. So that too, especially if you're training for London, and a lot of the training is during the winter months. Next question, shoe recommendations please. So I have, where are they? Oh, I think they're upstairs, and quite frankly I can't be bothered to go get them. I have got the Asics Gel Nimbus 29. Mine are mint green and they are fantastic. I really like them. I can't really give any other recommendations because they're the only ones I've ever used, other than some like cheap £40 Nike ones that I had when I was running in lockdown, which were horrible. But I suffer with my shins, and sometimes like my shins can feel a bit funny on runs, so I wanted ones that felt like clouds. I was Googling it, I did a lot of reading on them, they came up quite well. I think they were about £150, no, maybe 180. They were less than 200 and I really liked them. You can go and get your gait analysed. So there are certain places. So there used to be one in Peterborough, there's not anymore, it's in Stamford. I never went to get mine done. It's called like Bog Dog or something like that, the one in Stamford where you can go and you basically run on a treadmill. They look at the way that you run, the position of your feet, etc., and find shoes tailored to the way that you run. I should have probably done this, but I didn't. I didn't because I wanted to get a pair of shoes pretty quickly, and the opening times just clashed with when I was able to go because of work and Joey, and I didn't really want to have to take Joey with me. I think if you're planning on just like running up to like 5Ks, my personal opinion is that I don't really think it's necessary to go and do that. I'm sure that, you know, elite runners would maybe say different, but to me, I think for the average person, find a pair that are within your budget and go for it. If you have major issues, then yeah, of course, look into it, and if it's becoming like a serious hobby. But I really think if you're kind of running shorter distances, I personally wouldn't ever bother going to get my gait analysed. Okay, next question. What's your tips for pushing through the hard moments of the run where you want to stop? So I will either change the song. In those moments, I like to listen to songs that are like feel good, a bit nostalgic, I know all the words to. Neo is one that I always go back to, ones that like I know the words to and I can kind of sing along as I go. I also tend to count down a lot of the time. So I will, like if I'm running a 10K, I will get to 5K and I'll be like, right, 5 to go, 4 to go, 3 to go, and I'll start counting down. Sometimes I have to start that earlier on, like if I'm running a 10K, I'll go, right, 9 left to go. Or I will think, like the marathon, for example, I have to compartmentalize and I have to kind of I have to break it down. So for me, it would be like, right, I've got to mile 13. I know that I'm going to see Joey at mile 18. So I'm like, right, I've just got to get through these next 5 miles. Get through the next 5 miles and then I'll see Joey. And then I saw him at mile 18 and I'm like, right, I'm going to see Marco at mile 21. I've only got to get through these next 3 miles. And then when I've done those next 3 miles, I've only got another 5 miles to go. Easy. And that is kind of how I have to get through it. And that works for me. I think as well, once you've done, like, not every run, you don't ever, in my opinion, get to a point where you're doing long distances and so every 5K you do is easy. Sometimes I go out and those 5Ks that I do are harder than the 10 miles that I do. Like 5K sometimes feels like a slog, 3K sometimes feels like a slog. And I think they are the hardest ones when you're finding those runs hard and you kind of tell yourself, oh, for God's sake, if I can't do this, I'm never going to be able to do that. You just have good days and bad days. But I think when you have done those really hard runs, you know that you can push through it, and you know that if you've done that, you can do this, and that's what helps for me. But when it is really hard, I'll slow down, I think that's really vital sometimes, that if it is feeling too hard, then you're probably going too fast. So I'll slow down, I'll change the song, and I'll just think about getting through the next bit. Like if it's a 5K, it's like, right, it's just a park run, like, and just, it's just this, and it's just this, and it's not just anything, but that to me really helps. What was or is your recovery like? So my recovery, the next day when I woke up, I felt, so when I actually finished the marathon, I was in so much pain. Like, I was in so much pain. I had to walk 15 minutes to the meeting point where I was meeting Marco and my sister. It's actually a 6-minute walk, but it took me 15. I was walking very slowly, in a lot of pain. And then the second I stopped, I actually became quite unwell, and I nearly passed out 3 times, which was very embarrassing and not very great. And then we got the train home. I was absolutely exhausted. The next day I woke up and I felt sore, but I actually felt okay. Anyone who's listened to the podcast that we recorded the next day, Annabelle said how like great I looked. Like I just kind of rocked out of bed and I was like, cool, let's go. And I was stiff, but I was like, yeah, I ran a marathon yesterday. By the afternoon, we'd gone to look at 3 houses that day, and by the afternoon I felt like all the life had been sucked out of me. Like I really wasn't feeling very great by that point. I was starting to feel tired. The Tuesday and the Wednesday, my legs really hurt. Tuesday was the worst day, so day 2. I couldn't go up the stairs, I couldn't go down the stairs. If I did, I had to do it backwards because it was like less pressure on my quads. But that was really hard, like sitting down, standing up, it was horrible. Did not enjoy that at all. My back was hurting, like my whole body was hurting, and I was just so tired. Felt a bit foggy, like I wasn't really concentrating on anything. And then the Wednesday was more of the same. Thursday, so 4 days later, I woke up feeling pretty much fine, and by the Friday I was good as new. Overall it was okay. It was what I expected. You just have to really make sure that you are staying hydrated, that you're eating plenty. It's really important that you eat well after you finish the marathon, or any long run really, but you have to make sure you're replacing those calories, otherwise your recovery is going to be so much slower. But yeah, that was great. The other thing was I didn't really stretch after the marathon because I went straight to the meeting point. Then I got ill, and then I was like, right, let's just eat and go home. And I was sat on a train for however long, an hour, whatever. So yeah, I didn't really stretch afterwards, which was a bad idea. But generally, the recovery was okay, and I don't think it was as bad as I anticipated. Next question. How did you plan for fitting the training in around family and mum life? This was hard. This was really hard, and towards the end became quite problematic. For the half it was okay, so I would do 3 runs a week was typically what I would do, and I would run on a Tuesday. Usually I would run on a Tuesday, a Thursday and a Sunday. So I would do it straight after I dropped. I work at home, so I feel like I need to caveat that. I work from home. I also work flexibly, so I would either do it where I would drop Joey off at nursery in the morning, I would then come home, go for a run, and my during the week runs never really, until towards the end, never really surpassed like 7 or 8K, and then they'd go up to 10. So on average, we're anything between like 35, 40 minutes for a 5K up to an hour and 15 for a 10K. So I would do those either just before I started work, or I would go on my lunch break, or on a Thursday. It's not anymore because I've changed my working hours, but Joey used to be at my father-in-law's on a Thursday afternoon, and so I was able to pick him up a bit later and do my run after work. So I would try and fit it in where I could, or Marco would take Joey to nursery and I'd go in like earlier. And then on a Sunday, Marco would be at home, so I would just do it on a Sunday morning. He would take Joey to football, I would go for a run. But Sunday mornings were always my time to do my long run, and that worked for us all the way through. It's the midweek runs that are harder, but you make it work. And I think we knew that this had an end date, and so that made it a bit easier, that towards the end it was like, we've only got this long left, and then I get my time back and it's up to me how and when I run. I occasionally did, like if I couldn't run on the Sunday or I hadn't been able to run during the week, then I would have to rely on family and get family to help on a Sunday morning. The other thing I did was buy, well, I didn't buy it, that's a lie. The other thing I did was I was very lucky and I was gifted a running pram. So we've actually got 2. We've got the baby jogger, and then we've also got the Out and About Nipper V5, I want to say. Both of them were sent to me to review and to try, and I used them a few times, but I don't like running with the pram that much, or I didn't when I was like focusing on times and this, that and the other, and like needing to do a certain distance. I would maybe try them again now, but yeah, didn't really love running with him, but if I needed to, I would. So that's how I just quite literally had to make it work. Or I would go during the day at work and then I would work in the evening to make up for it. Did you have any impact injuries during training? I'm worried about my knees and hips. Not really, no. I did fall over, which was fun. I fell over, I think it was around February time. I fell over and I rolled my ankle, so that was great, and cut all my hand, and yeah, it wasn't fun. So that was an injury I had. Otherwise, it wasn't too bad. I do suffer a little bit with my shins, so I did feel them playing up sometimes, but honestly I just ignored it, which I'm not sure I should have done. But otherwise no, and I think I was quite lucky for that really. But other than my ankle, I didn't really have any injuries during my training. So can you please share your training timeline and how you ate around training sessions? So I downloaded an app called Runner, and I will sing their praises until the day I die. Unless they're involved in like any major scandals, obviously. Runner is a fantastic app. It's spelled R-U-N-N-A. I pay £10 a month, thereabouts, for it, but it came up with a personalised training plan for me. I told it what days I could run, what day I wanted my long run to be, and it completely tailors it to you. Obviously there are things like Couch to 5k, things like that if you are starting to run. I personally never got on with Couch to 5k. I had this conversation with somebody on Instagram the other day that it's not something I will ever recommend, because my personal experience of it was just naff, and I tried it more than once and I just didn't like it. But obviously lots of people do get on with it. If you don't have the means to pay for Runner, you do get a 2-week free trial with Runner, but if you don't have the means to pay for it, then by all means, Couch to 5k is a good option. There's free plans available online. They're obviously just not personalised to you, but Runner is something that I really got on with. And in terms of what I would eat around training sessions, my kind of general rule of thumb was if I was going in the morning and it was under 5k, I could go on an empty stomach. Otherwise I would eat like at least 2 hours before I ran. If I didn't have 2 hours, I'd just have a banana. But that's really how I did it. I would always make sure that I had a big or carb heavy meal the night before, and yeah, go from there. But I very much used a training plan that told me when to run based on my lifestyle. If I couldn't run on that specific day, it wasn't an issue. I would just go the next day, or you can skip the run or whatever, add it to the following week. But that's pretty much how I did it. Next question, how long in advance do you think you need to train for? I'm giving birth in July, but would love to have it as a goal for next year. Is this too ambitious? I haven't run since baby number 1 in 2022. So if you're giving birth in July, I would say that you would then need, I mean, obviously it depends if you give birth vaginally or through section, but that would be like at least 6 weeks if you've given birth vaginally. Probably at least 12 if you've had a section, so you're looking at like September time. I mean my honest opinion is that I think if it was me to do a marathon in that shorter time after giving birth, I think would be quite ambitious. Obviously it depends on you, it depends on the baby, it depends how you're feeding, like whether you have that support system to be able to go out for a few hours. I think in some ways it would be easier doing it with a young baby than it would be a toddler, because babies sleep. So, you know, if Marco was marathon training, I'm like, I'd rather you do it when I had a newborn baby and the newborn baby just slept on me for 3 hours than like now when Joey's like a little firecracker all the time. Maybe, but you can do marathon plans that are like, a lot of people follow training plans that are like 16 weeks. So they start like January for the London Marathon, end of April. You know, in terms of time, no, I don't think it's too ambitious. In terms of whether or not your body would be up to it, I don't think I can answer that question for you. I think for me it would be too soon, but for you, absolutely maybe not. All you can do is give it a go and see how you feel post-birth and go for it. But good for you. You do it, honey. You smash it. How did you plan routes for longer runs? The thought of repeating the same loop. Eye covering emoji. I never, ever did loops. Once I did loops. I did loops once because I had got to the point where I was finding it really, really, really hard. I'd been ill for a couple of weeks and I needed to get a run in that was like over 20k or something like that, and I wasn't feeling great. I was really nervous about going and trying to do this long run, and so Marco said to me, look, why don't you park here and do a loop, and then if you need to stop, you can stop and your car's there, rather than doing like a really long run and then feeling like you can't finish, but you've still got like 8k to walk. However, I would always, so again, I had Strava. I still have Strava, but now I have the free version, but I'm a sucker for an app, right? I paid for Strava, which you can like plan routes on there. So I did that a lot of the time. You can't do it with the free version, but I was planning my routes. So I would look at where I would park and I was like mapping out a route, and you can either look at routes that are already in existence that other people have saved, or you can actually map them out yourself. So that is what I did. I typically went and parked somewhere else. I don't really like running. It's quite built up where I live now, and I get really bored if I'm just running in between houses. So I would go and park in a nearby village, and I would like typically just run through all the surrounding villages and just go like that and just keep turning until it was time to stop, really. I do advise trying to plan a bit of a route and having a bit of an idea of how long it is, because otherwise you do end up just like continuously turning, and it gets a bit boring. So, did you feel hungrier on the days you ran the long ones? Absolutely yes. One thing that running makes you do is eat like a horse. I ate everything in sight all of the time. That's not really anything new for me. I'm always hungry, but I was even hungrier. It was wild. You mentioned having a high heart rate. How do you manage that safely, and what does the doctor think? Okay, so I'll address this one. I mentioned that even when I did the marathon, so like I say, my pace is typically around 7 to 7.5 minutes per kilometre. The marathon was about a minute longer than that. It was about 8.5 to 9. And the whole time, looking at my stats on my watch, I was still between like 70, I was above 70% of my kind of max heart rate zone, if you like. So if you have an Apple Watch, it'll split your heart rate into zones. So if it's elevated by like 10% or whatever, 10 to 20%, you'll be in zone 1, 20 to 30, zone 2, 30 to 40, or whatever. It splits your heart rate into different zones based on how much it's elevated. My heart, no matter how slow or how fast I run, my heart rate always seems to be at the top. And when I was looking at my stats on the day of the marathon, my watch actually died when I got to 30 kilometers, so it didn't record the whole run there. But from the first 30 kilometers, literally from 2 minutes in, my heart rate was zone 4 and 5, so the top, like above 70%, which is a bit concerning. I have recently had a load of blood tests done. I wasn't concerned about my heart rate. Like, nothing has ever come up and said my heart rate is a problem. I've had it where I've been like on the treadmill and I've like done it on the thing and it's come up saying that my heart rate is really high. My heart rate has always been a bit higher when I'm working out, but my resting heart rate is fine. I've never had any concerns about my heart. However, I've recently had a full blood work done for a lot of different things. It has come back that I am deficient in a lot of things. I'm on a fair bit of medication now. I'm also having some other tests done. There is one blood test that is related to like your muscles, etc, etc. Blah, 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 blah. Basically, it has come back that there may be some kind of injury to either my muscles, my heart, like it's all linked somewhere. Can't remember exactly what it's called. But basically, I'm having to have a blood test repeated in a few weeks, and if it's still elevated and it's still not right, I will have to go for some tests on my heart. There is a family history there. It's just things that, you know, it's good that they are checking this with me, basically. So I've never managed it because I've never been aware of it being a thing. It might not even be a thing, but for some reason when I am exercising, my heart rate is much higher. You know, it's often the case if your cardio fitness isn't very good, but my cardio fitness, according to my apps, is fine. It's above average, so I don't really know why this is happening. But my cardio fitness is apparently fine. I ran a marathon. I didn't stop. Like, my stamina, I seem okay. So I don't really know, I don't really manage it, but I'm having some tests done just to rule a few things out. So I will soon find out if there's anything to worry about. But at the moment, I'm carrying on as normal. I've not been told to do anything else, but we will soon find out if there are any issues with me old ticker. But I hope that all of your questions have been answered. I know this was a slightly longer video. If you do have any other questions, let me know. Other than that, ciao, ciao, ciao. We're training for a half marathon now, gang. So we've got that for the next June, July, August, September, October, the next 5 months. So it's all fun and games. But you should do it. If you're thinking about going for that run, just go for it. Just give it a go. It's fun, eventually. See you next week.